one of the things that I heard in that is, uh, there are people that will say they're gonna make the commitment, but it's one of those Jerry Maguire type of moments of help me help you. I can't want it more than you want it, because if that's the case, then if I'm honest, I don't wanna work with those people. It's a red flag for me when it's something where I can see they're not committed. And it's the start and stop. The start and stop, is does more damage than not doing anything at all. Because, a broken clock could be right twice, but if you start and you give people the impression of that you're one thing, and then you stop doing it, then they're like, "Well, I felt like I saw something," and it just confuses them even more. So, I'm definitely in agreement with that. I would say most people wait until they're failing before they start looking at change. So, what are some of the early warning signs that people should be looking out for? And what's the difference between finding those early warning signs and then the ones where they're waiting until they're forced to make the change? Because I mean, desperation drives all kind of people to do all kind of things.
Well, what I'll say is the people that end up in backed into a corner where they're in desperate times where they quote unquote, this has to work,
Hmm.
that's an automatic red flag. And I'm not the person you want to work with because
Okay.
what that statement tells me is you've let it go too long and too far and you're too deep in it that you're literally on your last lifeline.
Hmm.
And I don't want to be responsible for that because that's someone that needs a cash injection right now. And Sean, I sometimes make the hard advice where I say, listen, go take your skills,
Hmm.
get a part-time job or a full-time job, even though you don't want to, have some steady income coming in that
Yeah.
still allows you to build your side business on the side.
Hmm.
And until that business grows to the point where you can step back from the full or part-time job, you're not going to until you reach that point. And it's a pride swallowing moment for a lot of people. They don't want to hear that advice, but I've given that advice more often than not. And months later, people have reached out and thanked me. They found a job that they're actually happy with and they have
Hmm.
consistent income coming in. So they're paying down some of their debt, or that income has allowed them to focus and do their business on the side without adding any more time to their day than they're currently spending. Now, warning signs. The easiest warning sign, and I know this may sound very elementary, but it's the truth, is your business is going backwards and not forwards.
Hmm.
And for some people, they latch on to what is called the ostrich effect, where they know something isn't going right. They know there's cracks in the hull of their boat, but they're not willing to fix the leak and they're slowly sinking, right? It's
Hmm.
just, oh, that's just a little bit of water. It's not gonna make a difference, right? But the fact is that if you let that leak go too long over time, that boat will sink. So you can't bury your head in the sand and pretend like everything is okay and everything is fine and dandy when it's not. So you do need to look at your finances. You do need to look at your P&L. You do need to look at your KPIs. So if things are going backwards, that's the biggest, I would say, biggest moment where you need to start doing something different.
Hmm.
But the second biggest is if you have not seen growth, even by 5% between, I would say, 2 and 6 quarters of your business, something is not working. So Nancy and I have a benchmark of our company growing between 20 to 30% every year. That is our goal. So
Hmm.
we know numerically what number we always have to hit to make that happen. And as it stands right now, we're up close to 45% this year. So we're
Nice.
over 15% of our goal. But what I can tell you is too many people don't break down their goals enough so they know what they actually have to do. So when you get into a phase of business where you're bringing revenue in, you have to have a monetary GPS to plug into your system. So every October, Nancy and I actually sit down and we start game planning for the year ahead.
Hmm.
So in Q4, we start planning for Q1 through 4 of the next year. So we track where we're going to be by the end of this current year and we start planning ahead. All right, what's our monthly goal? What's our quarterly goal? What's our yearly goal? And that allows us to really focus on the things, the products, the service, the offerings that we have that will allow us to hit that number. So if you're listening to this and if you're watching this and you're like, man, Scott, you're speaking right to me. You know, my business is going
Mhm.
backwards or my business hasn't grown in 2 or 3 years. That is literally the universe shaking you by the shoulder. Say, listen, the definition of insanity of doing this is doing the same thing
It
each and
is.
every day, expecting something to change. And it's not. All you have to do, and this is what I remind people, is be a trailblazer, right? Go against the grain. Go the opposite direction of what other people are doing, because obviously going in the direction that you're going in is not working. And when you change something, something will change. But if you change nothing, nothing is ever going to change.
Absolutely. Well, let me do this as well because I want to bring it to I'm going to break it down for the early stage businesses. There are things that I had to create because I realized that the early stage ones, it technically takes at least 18 months to really start to figure out your business. A lot of times in that early stage, you're winging it because there's a lot of things that you don't know that you need to know, and you have no numbers to compare it against. So the reality is you want to try to go in with a plan and real goals. And what you spoke to is not just setting some long term goal that you can't really track. This is why I believe in milestones. There are milestones like one of the first things that you're going to want to figure out is how to be able to start turning a profit. Are you generating enough so that you can pay your bills? Are you getting to the point where you're breaking even? Because if you're breaking even, then you know that you're on to something. And then you can start looking at, okay, well, how do I get into the black from there and start generating not revenue, but actual profit? And you need to be able to start to put milestones in place that allow you to be able to track those things. So it's not always about likes, it's not always about comments, it's about progress and making sure that you're seeing what you need to be able to see with that. One of the other things that you talked about was the hidden cost of just letting something go, even when you know it's not working. I did something where there was an article and I said the $108,000 cost of just winging it. And it's something where if you do the math, if you want to pay yourself $75 an hour and you say you're going to work around 20 hours a week, if you run that up against 18 months, that's $108,000. That's not even taking into consideration apps or any of the other things that you have to be able to pay for. So it's really, really important to be able to make sure that you understand and be intentional. And then I'm in 100% agreement. It's something where there are a lot of people that want to copy what they see someone else do, and the problem with that is that's their story. So unless you're taking pieces that you can customize and go, you know what, that part, that is part of my story. But it's not, I'm not trying to take their whole story because the problem that people end up running into is when someone asks a follow up question and you're using someone else's story, you can't follow through on that. And then it makes you seem more like a fraud. And credibility and trust is something that once you lose it, I don't know that you ever really fully get it back. So those are things that I would say for early stage businesses. Don't just go chase the new shiny thing, the trending thing, because a lot of times by the time you see it, they've already gone through iterations of it. They've tested it. They've gone through it. They've figured out, okay, well, this is how it's working. That's why you found it because the first few iterations never got found by anybody. So understand when you see something, you're probably getting like the fifth or sixth version of it. And you have to understand that you need to be doing the same thing. So I appreciate that you were able to bring that up and talk about it. And then I just wanted to make it for the earlier stage businesses. Understand you're not going to figure everything out right the first time, but you have to be able to understand when you're doing something and it's not working and it's not getting you what you want. This isn't about starting and stopping. It's about being honest with yourself and revising things. I love that you brought up Nancy because that was going to be one of the things that I was talking about. Building something in a silo where it's just you and you're in your own head, it allows you to forget that, like, you can make it about yourself and forget that you're supposed to be addressing a challenge, the job to be done, the solutions, the challenges, and struggles, and things that you're actually supposed to be addressing.